Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, it is I am the one and only Ray the Flying Squirrel here, and once again I am back for the likes of the Forms of the Max Toys videos as always. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more of Let's Play of SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated for the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch, PC Steam, and of course the iOS phone devices. So, excuse me. So yeah, last time, I believe we have basically managed to complete everything in terms of the Flying Dutchman's Graveyard. And also, I think we have somehow managed to barely got started with the Forms of SpongeBob's Dream. And today, for this video, is the fact that we're most able to actually able to wrap things up through everything in terms of SpongeBob's Dream by able to actually go for the last few Golden Spatulas, mainly this one right here. So we're now on to 87, so I believe we only got about 13 more to go. So either way though, hopefully we're able to actually complete certain challenges like so. But anyways, let's spend some more shiny objects, and we'll go inside Squidward's house to able to actually go for another obstacle challenge.
Sake, boy, cover your ears.
Mr. Krabs? What are you doing in Squidward's dream?
Hard time, boy, or at least it feels like it. Do you think you can make it across this sheet of music to the Golden Spatula on Squidward's big nose?
Don't worry, Mr. Krabs. I'll end this challenge on a high note.
Good luck, boy. When you get there, try to wake him up. I'm running out of aspirin.
Get it? Because we have to go for a serious amount of those musical notes as platforms. So, yeah, you can pretty much expect what this is going. So, anyway, so a few things I want to explain for this point today, and that is the fact that today's date is of course the 13th of July today, in this case in 2022 today, so it looks like we're actually getting pretty close to the point where we've almost at the halfway point in terms of July, and as a result, that, you know, days themselves can go by very, very fast. Oh, and another thing I would classify for mentioning about the forms of the actual update in regards to the forms of, you remember what the game where we keep on talking about for the majority of this month, which appears to be Klonoa Fantasy Revive series, that basically, originally though, we were expecting to able to do the the PS4 version of that particular, you know, two of those games as a Let's Play, but we've decided able to change our minds, and we'll try to make it finalized because of the forms of our fact that the version we decided to do is of course the Switch version, just because, well, just obviously try to feel like it, because thankfully though that the actual two of those remastered games have got save files, so at the very least that's something to behold. Well, I think relatively speaking, it only has like I would say 3 files this time around though, compared to the forms of how it does it on, well, let's just say, for example, in Klonoa Daughter Phantomile for the PlayStation 1, basically though, I think it has a multitude of those save files. And I think the only save files, the amount you can get up to, it was like roughly 16. And I think that could be also applies onto Klonoa 2, Lunity's Veil, at least as far as I could recall correctly, on the original PlayStation 2 release. So, and also on the Wii version of Klonoa Daughter Phantomile, only has like, I would say 4 files. Mind you, it has been a very long while since I actually did manage to play the Wii remake back in 2008 or 2009 for everywhere else. So, as a result, yeah, we're actually going on to 3 files as opposed to its multitude of save files, unlike the original versions. So, seems kind of odd if you ask me when it comes to likely for able to decreasing the amount of those file selections. Although, mind you, only in forms of in, you know, Klonoa Empire of Dreams and, you know, Klonoa 2 Dream Champ Tournament, that those 2 Game Boy Advance games do manage to have 3 save files, which just seems pretty obvious. So, yeah, as a result of that kind of stuff though, yeah, we decided able to update our schedule when it comes to the forms of Klonoa Fantasy Revive series, that basically though, we've decided to do the Switch version as a Let's Play, because although we recently played this on our own time for the sake of the forms of our, I will say, for the first impressions, it's actually gone very, very, very good. Although, mind you, because of how the fact that, mind you, I'm being busy, just get distracted by playing you know, the PS4 version at the moment for on our own time, along with the Xbox One / Series X version. So, but yeah, first impressions is actually going really good. Even though, mind you, that most people complain about the forms of power factor on Daughter Phantom Miles case, it might run exactly the same engine as, you know, the Wii remake, because the forms of power factor, well, thankfully the actual, the visuals is pretty much match up to the original, rather than becoming like a teenager, unlike in Klonoa 2, Lunity's Veil, or even the Wii remake, for that matter. Although, it has been a very long while since I actually mentioned something like this, because, as you can tell right there, I'm struggling to able to get to this part. Although, thankfully the checkpoints are very generous, so just because of how the fact that every time you fall off, then basically you can just simply keep retrying and all that stuff, and that's all that really matters to me, so... And also I just realized that the entire background of this particular environment is a little bit different as well. Like, at first glance it might actually be like, well, almost first of all it usually takes place like a yellowish background, but it turns out in this particular remaster or remake, basically it's gone like blue, so I've honestly have no idea why they've gone for this change, so... dang it, I fell off, and that actually leaves me back there, so that's not good. And because of this though, I somehow realized that I forgot to able to get Patrick's sock, so hopefully I'll try to grab that, although sometimes that, maybe trying to go back onto it though might not be a good idea, because, well, for some reason I just have no idea what I was about to be doing. So, in fact, let me just go ahead and warp back there quickly. So just in case I can able to actually just do like a hardest method if possible. Although thankfully the actual loading times has been reduced slightly. So but it's just kind of annoying about the fact that again, every time you die, then the load screen decides to pop up and it's not as like pleasant to look at. So anyway, another thing I would like to explain, and that is the fact that recently I actually picked up another controller. And this time around though is another variation of the Wii Classic Controller Pro, because I just really love the aesthetics about the controller. And this time around though, I've got the gold version because I love gold kind of syndrome or something like that. So yeah, now I actually have 3 classic controllers. Well, one is the normal one, which doesn't usually have any grips at all, and the other 2 are the Pro variations, because let me tell you, I think the Pro versions is probably the most superior controllers in my opinion, just because, well, with the forms of the comfortable grip, and on top of all that stuff though is the fact that the more you play it, the more comfortable it gets. So yeah, that's the perfect example of why I'm actually decide to be buying through multitude of those Wii Classic Controller Pros every now and then, because, well, since then my gloves are a bit too big to be able to actually play through the actual whole thing. So as a result, yeah, I just felt so happy to be able to have, you know, the Classic Controller Pro for the Wii, along with the Wii U, and of course the Switch as well. Although, originally, I was expecting to be able to try to get another Wii U Pro controller at some point, if my analog stick gets a lot more drifting every now and then. But either way though, I might try to save it up in a later time, but not now anyway though, because at this point in time, I think I should probably start saving up some of my cash for hopefully trying to pre-ordering Splatoon 3, as well as Sonic the Hedgehog 2, the movie on DVD, and of course the forms of Pac-Man World Repack. No, I do apologize for that particular graphical glitch with that particular capture card recording. That's only mainly because, well, I somehow got distracted, or maybe it's because, well, as far as you can clearly tell at this point is the fact that in the UK right now, the weather itself has gone a lot hotter at this point. Almost as way hotter than the forms of how it does it on Cyprus that we actually went into. But as a result of that kind of stuff though, that it might only last for about a few days or something like that. Well, mind you, about the fact that we're still in summer after all. So anyways, let's go ahead and go back onto that. God dang it. Seriously, it also reminds me of like a Super Mario Sunshine vibe. Although, mind you, until after we're done with the forms of Squidward stream, we can probably get into it by far as the most annoying mission in the whole entire game, or in some cases, the entire world, which I'm sure that if you ever played the original version of the game before, you know exactly what I'm about to say. But either way though, we'll save that for later, so... Anywho, oh god, the platforming in this sometimes feels a bit too, well, treacherous, you know? At least, thankfully, we've actually made it this point. And hopefully, this will be the last segment here. And there we go, the teleportating box is now activated. And we've got 88 golden spatulas, so only 12 to go. But before I leave, let's go and grab that shiny object. And is there a way I can able to actually just to, oh no, I did not even notice. I forgot to activate the actual another teleportating box. Oh shoot. How come I supposed to get there? Oh, wait a second. There we go. So that way we can able to actually go backtrack for a little bit. And that way, it allows me to able to go to there. There we go. Oh, jeez. I should have activated that in the first place. But, regardless of such, though, we're basically done here, so... Ugh. Now we got that hard part out of the way. At least in terms of the hardest platforming segment throughout the whole world so far. So now we can probably get on to the forms of everyone else's least favorite mission in the whole entire game, which is of course, we're going on to Mr. Krabs' dream. So yeah, it's going to be filled to the brim with enemies, I'm afraid. And I will say that any forms within a remake though, it'll make things a lot difficult and harder this time around, which... I'm sure we'll probably get into it at some point if we manage able to get distracted by not only a lot of like, you know, obstacles, but also about the fact that trying to take care of enemies might be the most reliable thing in the world. And I think that'll be enough to able to spend on, you know, shiny objects in this world. So, oh boy.
Squidward, this is amazing.
Amazingly awful, you mean?
Mr. Krabs is dreaming of the Krusty Krab.
What a surprise. I can't escape work anywhere.
Whoa! Lunch rush! I'd better grab my hat and...
Forget the hat. Get that spatula and get us out of here.
It's like a shiny golden toothpick that holds together the bun of...
We don't have time for this.
Oh boy, enemy rush time, here we go. And also, as you can clearly see on screen, unlike any forms of how it does it on the original version of the game, basically though, as you probably already know, that there are a lot of the forms of enemies, of course, as I mentioned this earlier, but it's also, as you notice, there are some duplicators that somehow managed to go surrounded by that specific bubble. And however though, here's what makes things a lot harder than the forms of how it does in the original, although before I get into more details on that, because here's the final stock in the game, so I just want to classify that. So, and we got ourselves a trophy for that as well. So, yeah, prepare yourselves a lot of deaths on this stream, especially because, well, thankfully the loading screens doesn't take that long to able to get through, but it's just the fact that just trying to able to actually do this particular mission like this is like pretty much impossible mode, or should I say that this particular version of Mr. Krabs' Dream is by far the hardest mission in the whole entire remake, because although thankfully there's still a platform you can able to be safe on, but to make matters even much more harder this time is the fact that basically in order to able to get rid of those duplication of 3000 machines, basically though is the fact that we need to able to get rid of the I would say trying to get rid of the enemies or something like that, or maybe trying to able to get rid of the bubble and then just trying to able to... It's hard to explain because it's been ages since I actually known about this. In fact, let me know in the comments below if you're able to actually try to describe the massive differences between, you know, the original version. Oh, wait a second. There we go. So yeah, we have to use the bubble missile in order to able to... Oh, wait a second. It doesn't last for long. Okay. So, because I'm pretty sure to you that in order to able to actually just try to make it on top of the bun, with 3 of those duplication machines each. Basically though is the fact that we have to get rid of certain enemies until we're able to create platforms. Okay, I totally get it, because obviously it has been about you know, 2 years ago since I actually experienced this dream on the forms of this particular, you know, the remake itself. But, anyways, let's go ahead and keep on using a, you know, the bubble missile, so that way it makes things a little bit more easier to manage. But obviously we still need to be very careful, because obviously you really don't want to get a knockback. And also, if you, every time you fall, basically though, you have to start all over again with all this entire process. So yeah, that might actually turn a lot of people off when it comes to the forms of this dream. So yeah, it could be pretty much summarized as such. So anyway, and another thing I would like to mention is that obviously I'm trying to save up for Pac-Man World Repack for, you know, not only for the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, or Series X, and also the Nintendo Switch as well, so I can play this amazing classic game on the go, but this time with remade visuals and all that stuff though. But I'm really hoping about the fact that when it comes to Pac-Man World Repack, hopefully that the Switch version might also run very well on the Switch, just like it Forms of Error doesn't on Klonoa Fantasy Rebirth series. So as a result of that kind of stuff though, I'm still looking forward to it. And also, let's not forget ourselves Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope, so we can pretty much expect how this is going. So anyway, another thing I would like to explain about this actually is the fact that recently we got ourselves our exciting news coming up, specifically something related to E3 for next year. So yes, hopefully, at least for now anyway, hopefully that E3 will definitely make its return during the course of next year in 2023. So at least we're hoping about the fact that once this is all calmed down and all that stuff though, hopefully that the E3 might able to actually make a massive comeback after the events of the majority of 2019, because well, it's just the fact that it's pretty much a shame that in 2020 didn't happen, and 2022 also didn't happen, whilst the new forms of E3 2021 technically did happen, but it's usually mainly focusing on online, you know, live streams and stuff like that, which I'm okay with it, I guess. But anyway. Oh, and another thing as well is the fact that in regards of the forms of the actual release dates for certain games, like we already know, we've already mentioned about this already, about the fact that obviously Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope is going to be approaching on to the 20th of October, around the same time as when the UK release of My Little Pony the movie that usually came out 5 years ago in the UK on a big screen. And also, in addition to that though, and yeah, we have somehow finally managed to complete this godforsaken objective right there, because, you know what I mean, this stream is pretty much over and done with. Hi, now we can leave. Although, surprisingly enough, it didn't take me that much struggle for this point, well, apart from the fact that with this very annoying knockback comes into play, but, anyway, so, yeah, that pretty much summarized as such, so, but at least the dream itself looks very promising for that Mr. Krabs' dream, because, you know, that place is filled to the brim with not only me and all that stuff, because, you know, he's being greedy, just like Scrooge McDuck from the likes of DuckTales, and alongside with Wario for the sake of the forms of the Super Mario series, or to be more specifically in the Wario Land series of gaming. Which, speaking of such though, we still have no luck of able to actually have a new Wario Land game for some time now. Like, I know for the fact that it's been almost like 15 years ago since we've last had a traditional Wario platformer game. So, anyway, so let's go into Patrick's house.
You have a golden spatula. Give it here.
Not so fast, SpongeBob. You'll have to pass my test before you get this golden spatula.
Very well, sir. Challenge accepted.
Very well. Your challenge is to find the golden spatula.
You're holding it.
You did it! Now here is your reward.
And that is by far the easiest mission in the whole entire world, just because there's nothing right to hum about. So, yeah, that pretty much summarizes such, so there we go. And before we're able to actually leave SpongeBob's dream, of course, we need to take care of the forms of the last few bits and bobs here and there. To be more specifically, we need to obtain this very last golden spatula on this world, and I I think we should probably get rid of that robot from now on, just in case he's really getting on my nerves, and also because of how the fact that I just don't able to get screwed by him all over again if I have tried. So, anyway, so that does it from that, and grab the golden spatula and... What? What? What happened there? Oh, I slipped off the edge, and also just obtained a golden spatula at the same time, too. Gee, I didn't expect to see that happening, huh? I'm guessing it's probably because I didn't exactly pay attention to that particular slippery object as far as I'm concerned. But anyway, SpongeBob's stream is completely done. So, all we need to do now is basically we need to do... first of all, we need to able to obtain the last golden spatula from Patrick, because obviously, after all, we've got the last 10 Patrick socks to spend. And on top of all that stuff, though, we need to able to deal with the shiny objects farming. So, this might take a bit of a while, especially because, well, relatively speaking, because of how the fact that I just have no idea what I was supposed to be saying. Although, there is that one in particular game coming up that finally got its release date for both PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 so far. That's what appears to be none other than God of War Ragnarok. And finally, that game got its release date, as I mentioned this earlier, and that's going to be releasing during at some point on November the 9th. So, I think it was sometime in the, I would say a Wednesday or something like that. I'm pretty sure it's on Wednesday, so either way though, because chances are, I think it's going to be coming out about 9 days before, you know, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet for the Nintendo Switch is going to be approaching, so, yeah, that pretty much expect how this is going, so... Anyways, let's talk to Mr. Krabs here, so we can able to spend some even more shiny objects. So because of this though, we're actually now on to 93, so... I think for the majority of the last few golden spatulas we can possibly obtain is, well, specifically just Mr. Krabs in general. So, and I remember back in the day, for about 2 years ago actually, that I do remember there was that one in particular obnoxious process when it comes to the forms of trying to able to obtain, well, the rest of the forms of the golden spatulas in general. Although thankfully, onto this theater right here, thankfully it's still like 40,000 shiny objects to spend, but I remember back in the day where basically, whenever when this game was first launched back in 2 years ago, that the actual the requirements for able to actually try to do a lot of farming for shiny objects, when it comes to like spending a lot of them for Mr. Krabs, and basically it just goes like skyrocketing back in the day. Which thankfully on the patch though, thankfully they did manage to make the actual price counts normal. So as a result of that kind of stuff though, I'm very happy about that. Especially because, well, back in the day, whenever I managed to play this on my own time for a bit, on the PS4 version most likely, mind you, not the Switch version mind you, because the Switch version is a bit rough around the edges in my opinion. But regardless of anything else though, it's just the fact that, well, relatively speaking, I just have no idea why they just managed able to skyrocket in price. So, anyways, let's go into Goo Lagoon as you probably expect, for those of you who already seen the original version of the game already. So we can pretty much expect we can able to do the exact same process all over again, except to make matters worse though, compared to the forms of how it does it on the original version in my opinion, is the fact that, well, you know what I mean, loading times are really stupidly long. So, because, you know, trying to find some more shiny objects can take a long time. Oh, and another thing, I suppose, that Sonic has totally forgot to mention about that, in regards to the forms of his Let's Play of Klonoa for the Wii. Basically, one thing he doesn't actually mention about the forms of another gripe we have with the Wii remake is the fact that, much like in Sonic Adventure 2, though, the game does have bad sound mixing, especially noticeable if you're trying to hear any English dialogue. Well, basically, that the music is going way too loud, and there's no way we can able to adjust the actual game volume or the voice clips volume. So because of this, though, yeah, I have no idea why that certain games have some bad sound mixing. So, although, at least unlike in other films though, specifically the Magic Voyage, for what I've heard, that it does manage to able to have a very annoying sound interruptions and stuff like that, and as well as the forms of Felix the Cat the movie, that, jeez, Felix the Cat the movie is really, really bad. Like, ranging from the forms of unnecessary musical numbers, and also bad sound mixing, like I can't really hear what the characters are actually saying. And let's not forget to mention about the forms of obnoxious visuals, like seizure-reducing scenes. Like, jeez, there's a lot of, like, flashing images that it might not be as pleasant to look at. But I might be biased when it comes to likely certain things like stuff like this, but anywho. Oh, and I suppose another thing that I suppose Maxi or Pac-Man has totally forgotten to mention about this, including Tiana as well, because recently Tiana, she managed able to start working on her Let's Play of Banjo-Kazooie Grunty's Revenge for the Game Boy Advance recently. So because of this though, hope you guys are able to enjoy that particular Let's Play so far, because somehow she barely got started with the game. Although mind you though, that she will do a lot of stuff in the future. Actually, kind of think about it, but if I was managed able to realize that we can probably able to expect that we can possibly able to actually do some other Banjo-Kazooie games in the future after Grunty's Revenge is finished. Although, mind you, it's hard to tell because, well, it has been about a very long while since we actually done the actual Banjo-Kazooie game since Banjo-Tooie for the Nintendo 64 and Xbox Live Arcade versions. Well, mind you, we only played the 360 version for this matter just because, you know, reduced loading times as well as the forms of some, you know, better controls in general. Although, nothing bad or anything when it comes to the controls on the N64, but it's just that it's so hard to able to get used to sometimes. Actually, kind of thinking about it, with that particular checkpoint I just touched, I think this might be the best way to able to farm some more of those shiny objects, because in addition to able to, like, use the bubble missile to able to actually target it at, you know, the exact same spots as we originally attempted to from the original version of the game, but as soon as I found out with the forms of that particular checkpoint marker, that'll just make this entire process a lot faster, because I can just simply just shoot the bubble missile thing right at the forms of that particular explosive tiki right there, all the way to the distance, and then also just trying to use that 3 times, and then ramps and repeats, so just in case you can able to actually farm some even more shiny objects in general, so that probably get the gist of it, so. But yeah, believe me, this entire process is gonna be kind of dragged on, especially noticeable, it's bad enough it has a lot of loading screens in general. I couldn't mention about the fact that if for those who have a first time experience in this remake, and if you really want to go for 100% completion, including the Platinum Trophy for the PlayStation 4, basically, although for achievements as well, that if you really want able to get for a whole entire completionist, I couldn't imagine about the fact that, well, the loading times aren't quite unnecessarily long, especially noticeable because I just have no idea that I keep on dying most of the time, and then you have to deal with this a lot of loading screens. And if you think about yourself of the actual, like, Sonic 06's loading times in a nutshell, so as a result though, you're gonna have to do the same thing with this game. At least with the forms of Sonic 06 though. Well, despite the fact that the loading times are still bad in Sonic 06, because, you know, it loads for almost everything. But thankfully for Project 06, for the PC owners out there, at the very least you will able to actually have that feature where, well, it's hard to explain because it's been about 2 days ago since I actually last played this, and also doing commentary itself as well, so. Anyway, and another thing they did revealed, like, I suppose we forgot to mention about this, and that is the fact that, well, relatively speaking, when it comes to Capcom Showcase, they've shown us for about a month ago, like, we're talking about the forms of some of these new stuff they've got for the sake of the forms of Resident Evil series as a result. Like, I suppose we've technically already mentioned about the fact that yes, Resident Evil 4 Remake is happening, although mind you, it's going to be exclusive onto the next generation of consoles for PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, which I think that might also do the same thing for Kingdom Hearts 4, because of the forms of the in-games engine is like made by Unreal Engine 5, because obviously we now moved on to the next much more better, richer visuals than the likes of ever before. And yeah, that's that. And of course that will be releasing until next year, of course. And another thing they did show us when it comes to Resident Evil stuff on Capcom Showcase, and that is the fact that, well, they still shown us briefly about the forms of Street Fighter 6 when it comes to its gameplay and stuff like that, but also they revealed some DLC as well as some specific updates for their previously released games. To be more specifically, Resident Evil Village or Resident Evil 8 did receive a DLC such as Shadow of Rose, and also they've got themselves the third-person mode, and finally with the forms of Resident Evil 2 Remake, along with Resident Evil 3 Remake and Resident Evil 7 Biohazard is actually coming to PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. I think my guess is the fact that they're also able to reduce the loading times. Well, it's hard to tell because I wasn't exactly, well, I've heard about the series of the Resident Evil games, so, but either way though, it's just the fact that I used to have one of them, but I have no interest in, well, unfortunately, because I think trying to get used to with the first-person controls can take a bit of a long time to get used to, at least as far as I'm concerned, but, I think, relatively speaking, though, I think that's as far as I can usually try to describe about that. So, anywho, and, I suppose, yeah, that's as far as I can try to explain about that. So, yeah, it's just a shame about the fact that I can't usually, well, I was able to try to, speed up this entire process with this whole, you know, that loading screens and all that stuff, though, but unfortunately, though, we have to sit through it, so. But yeah, I think anything for the doubts at this point, I think that's as far as I can try to describe about the forms of today's discussion. Although, nothing drastically all that much though, but regardless of anything else though, I think, relatively speaking, I think that's as far as I can talk about. Although originally though, I was trying to mention something related to Mario Kart Tour for the sake of the forms of today. But I unfortunately have no time because obviously I just somehow got distracted by quite a number of things. Like, you know, as I said before, recently I'm playing through, you know, Klonoa Fantasy Revive series at this point on the go on a Switch. So just in case I can able to get accustomed to the controls. And also PS4 version, although, relatively speaking, from what I've noticed, whenever I managed able to finishing playing the PlayStation 4 version, from what I recall, basically, the trophies is actually pretty easy to get. Like, obviously, for the majority of these trophies or achievements, depending on what version you're playing, it's all about trying to take down as many of those bosses as you can, and even especially noticeable completing certain secret levels between the forms of Klonoa 1 and 2. So, yeah, that seems pretty cool. We're able to actually easily obtain them. And, nothing to do with the crystals, because I'm guessing those crystals are just for bragging rights, I guess. Like, relatively speaking, I couldn't mention about the fact that, well, I couldn't imagine if Klonoa 3 might able to exist, and then if they somehow added a list of saying, like, you know, collecting every single crystals as a trophy or achievement. Basically though, it'll become kind of similar to Crash Bandicoot 4, 106% ridiculous with completion requests. Because, you know, for the gem collecting, as well as the forms of the time trial relics, specifically platinum ones most likely, and heck, even with the especially noticeable with the flashback tapes you have to grind, and also let's not forget ourselves with the forms of the inverted stages as well. Each with the forms of, you know, 200 additional normal gems, as well as 228 more gems from the inverted stages. And let's not forget ourselves the perfect relics that you can able to do with the actual level without taking a single death or something like that. Well, mind you, it has been about a couple of weeks ago since I actually last touched upon Crash Bandicoot 4. It's about time on the Switch. Well, that's only mainly because, well, still busy playing through Klonoa Fantasy Revive series because, you know, I'm a huge fan of Klonoa games now. Especially noticeable because, well, relatively speaking, as far as what Sonic did actually tell me this once, back in about a couple of weeks ago actually, that there was that one time that we did manage to get ourselves the specific bizarre Wii game called Zakiwiki Quest for Belbios's Treasure. I have no idea why that he decided able to compare the game to something related to Klonoa, because Klonoa is actually a pretty simple and easy game, because it's all about, you know, platforming involved, but that's just probably as far as I can usually try to, regardless of the forms of which specific genres you prefer. But anyway though, oh, and another thing I would classify for mentioning about this as well, that recently I actually got myself another character from the likes of Sonic Dash. And this time around though, I actually got myself E102 or E123 Omega. So yeah, pretty cool to able to actually now have him on the actual Sonic Dash game. So either way though, because I know for the fact that on Sonic Forces Speed Battle, that technically you might already come across into E123 Omega, because obviously he was in the game from the likes of the, you know, Sonic Forces and stuff like that. So either way though, because chances are though that might be something worth mentioning for the sake of the forms of character appearances and stuff like that for that nature. So oh, and another thing about this as well, that until specifically next year, that RoboCop Rogue City is coming in during at some point next year. Although I'll talk more details about that in the next video for this coming up Friday. So in this case though, this will be the last time for doing this on screen. So yeah, I think we should probably end things off here. So join me next time for more of Let's Play of SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated. That is the fact that we'll finish off the game. So I'll do this off screen and I'll meet you guys as soon as we get to it. Later fellas.